Hey guys, so I'm back at it again with a hero deck profile for 2022. And before I forget, Happy New Year's to everybody. Let's just hopefully this year will be better than the last two, because in all honesty, the last 2 years kind of sucked. You know, for me personally, it was pretty good, financially and career wise. But as for growing as a person and going on, places and having new experiences, it kind of sucked. And I know it doesn't really apply to a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh people, because let's be honest, not a lot of people leave their basements. And if you see people at locals, they're very kind of like introverted. But for me, like I'm kind of outgoing and need to travel. And Yu-Gi-Oh, as much as I love it, is just one of my many hobbies. I'm like actually super into like weightlifting, video games, Twitch. Like I'm actually into streaming as well too. So it's just one of the movies, it's one of the many hobbies I have. So hopefully this year will be better and we'll be able to get back to those things, traveling, going to the theater. Hopefully they don't close down the gym. If they close down the gym, I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. So, yeah. But anyways, I made some tweaks to the deck and also got some nice new bling. So I kind of wanted to show that off. And yeah, just without further ado, let's get to the deck profile. So we'll start off with the main deck. We'll do the side, and then we'll do the extra, then the side. That's how I think I normally do it. So start off with we got two Stratos. So this is one change I kind of made because I've been seeing a lot of lists, and me personally from testing, I think two is the way to go because yeah, in all honesty, like you don't really need three. Three feels a bit cloggy, and you kind of want to put some more stuff in your main deck and to get more consistency. Two feels really consistent enough, especially with all the kind of main deck monsters that you have to have, as well as you have enough searchers, and Fusion Destiny is just busted right now. If you open that, then that's literally all you really need to win most of the time. But Stratos is still pretty good to get to your forest plays and maybe get your combos going, but you don't really need to. I find as a three of like it doesn't really the third copy doesn't really come up, and even like most of the time you can get away with that without even having to even play it most of the time because all you really need is like forest combo, which you can have forest in hand, so you might not even need your Stratos and Fusion Destiny most of the time. And Stratos, a lot of times nowadays, I actually kind of use it to pop cards. So yeah, it's just it's kind of weird because Stratos, like in all honesty, for a while I was one of those guys that was playing in that two for a while, and then I found that three was kind of the way to go for a while because it's one of the cards you want to see. And then after a while, especially recently, like I found that having that actual third copy of Stratos wasn't helping me win more games, and that essentially like that's what you kind of want to do. Like you need to see what kind of hands you can get with the ratios that you have, and see where you kind of you know see your win loss ratio in kind of a way. And if you're winning more games than you're losing, then you might be doing something right with the changes that you're doing. So that's kind of what I kind of base that upon. Like Stratos is still good. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a great searcher. It's great for popping cards. It's also even if it gets negated with like Effect Veiler or Imperm, which are huge in the meta right now. You can, if you have Mass Change in hand, you can actually just dodge those those negates and keep your combo still going. So yeah, so still very very good card, even though I'm running at two now. So for some are one ups. So Shadow Mist, I'm still running it at one. I don't know. In all honesty, with how the format is, it's very very fast paced. I find that grind isn't as valuable as as it was kind of needed before. So I know I've been running one for a while, but even more so now, I feel like the format is super fast paced, and the second one doesn't really kind of come up. And in all honesty, you really only resolve one most of the time. And if you need the other, then I do have a card in my deck that you guys probably all know by now that helps me recur it. So it's it's still a really good card. It's good to pitch off of Forest. You know, good to when you have AHL, and you have the Shadow Mist in your deck. It's good to special the Shadow Mist from the AHL, the A Hero Lives, to get the mass change. And you know, you can also get into the grave so many ways with Fusion Destiny, Forest. You know, even with a Liquid Soldier discard fodder play as well too. So you can get it in grave so many ways. Other one ofs, so we have the one liquid. Liquid, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's kind of a staple at one. Two, I find, is a bit cloggy. And in all honesty, like I actually play in this deck with kind of resolving two most of the time. If I have the certain cards, like with the cards I use for recursion. So it just having two would mean I would have like three usages of the card, which I think is just way too much. I think like having one copy and being able to use it again is kind of valuable, but any more than that is kind of redundant. And we have the one Honest Neos. It'd be amazing. It's actually kind of amazing how many times people forget you have Honest Neos in hand. Like even though you've searched it, or you know, like you kind of had to make a kind of a weak board, and you just kind of barely got Plasma on the field, and you luckily kind of hard drew this, and they try to crash into your cards, and they forget like, oops, you know, damage step, Honest Neos, and then it's kind of worth it to see the look on their faces most of the time, because it's very like, you know, it's a Homer Simpson dope moment where they just kind of like hit their heads against the wall. It's like, dope. I should have like, you know, been a bit more careful or something. So that's really good still. You know, it's good for boosting your boss monsters and keeping your boss monsters on the field for another turn. And on your turn where you just, you know, land your finishing blows and go for lethal. So that's it for the elemental heroes. So Vision Hero package. So we play still 3, 2 increase. I know some people play, actually a lot of people now play 1 increase, but yeah, that's, I can't do it. Like if I want my Forest combo to resolve, then I need to play it like this. And then 2 Vine. The reason why with the increase is because I always draw it. So, and a lot of times, like, yeah, so like that happens to me, then most of the time my plays are dead, and I'm just looking at a handful of bricks that I can't really do anything with. So that's kind of why you play 2, or in my opinion 2, because you wanna, you know, you wanna at least still be able to resolve that combo, and you can't do it when you have both or one of them in your hand, depending on how many copies you play. So that's it for the, and Vion, he's still really good. I know a lot of people are saying that Vion is the better normal now, and you know, I think they kind of do different things than Stratos. Stratos kind of gets to Forest quicker, whereas Vion, yeah, like it's kind of good. Like in all honesty, like in my deck, because I do play Blast as a mass change target. If I do somewhat get negated and stuff, like then I can still keep my plays going and go off and do a Forest play. And people that don't play Blast, they don't have that luxury, right? So, in my opinion, in uh, in for them playing Vion over prioritizing Vion over Stratos, I definitely agree with, because they can't dodge, you know, those cards like Valor and Imperm with well, you can go into like what is it, like go into Dark Claw, but it just won't have like an impactful play where you kind of like, you know, OTK your opponent in a way, unless you draw like Busted or something. So Vion is still, in my opinion, really really good, because you can, you know, go +4, you can get the you know, you dump Mist, you get Liquid Soldier in hand, you poly into Sunriser, you search Miracle, and then off the liquid you go +2 discard 1. So you just kind of go off like that. But you know, I still think Stratos is still good for what he does because he gets you to where you need to be, like with the forest play, which is very very valuable in this deck. They both do different things. That's kind of what I want to say. So for Destiny Heroes, you still play 2 Mali, 1 Decider. I still like this guy, even though I find in this format, you know, Darklaw isn't as impactful than it was in previous ones. It still does work, but I find against like the best decks, like against Bird, they can kind of like play through it, I guess, if they get spam level 1s in the field, so they can, you know, go into their rank 1 plays and go into Zeus, or just kind of you know, kind of pop off into something like that one card that spins like cards into your hand like 3 times or something, up until the amount of XCs they have. So it's just that's kind of why I kind of played Decider, because I use it on the if I know what my opponent's playing and they have a graveyard reliant deck, I play Fusion Destiny. I go into Dangerous. I put Mist and Mali in the grave. I don't activate their effects. I combo into well, actually, first then I use Dangerous to I discard a card from my hand and I put Decider in the grave. I bring them back using Cross. You know, search Cross. With Cross, I bring him back onto the field. I special summon from the grave, and then what happens is he has an effect where it's kind of like Sunlight Wolf, where you get to add a hero card from the graveyard back into your hand at the end of the turn. So what I usually do for that Darklaw play that not a lot of people do, I add back the liquid so I have follow-ups for the next turn, so I can go into another either you know, either a Darklaw, you know, normal liquid, special summon Mist, and then search the mass change, or I normal the liquid, and if I have a Stratos in the grave somehow, I kind of go off into that. So it just it kind of what I like about it is a guaranteed +1 of a card that you can use, and in those combo strains that I have, there's always cards in the grave that are very usable for me. So that's kind of why I like Decider. Like Celestial is kind of good, but it's very random. And the way I have this deck kind of constructed with like 1 Mist and certain one-ofs, I feel like running Decider is good because I can recur the one-ofs that I kind of need. Like if I need the Honest Neos, I'll recur that back. If I need the Plasma for whatever reason, I'll recur that back. Yeah, Liquid, Shadow Mist can recur back at the end of the turn somehow. So that's kind of why I run it still. You know, draw hand is, I just don't like giving my opponent any advantage. And most of my friends that do have run draw hand in the past, they kind of like they've dropped it because it just it leads into your opponent drawing like a hand trap or a board breaker that just pretty much kills you. Like giving your opponent any hero advantage, give any card advantage is kind of like a no-no in my books because it's so powerful. Even if you give them just 1 card, even if it's a Darklaw rip, like you still giving them 1 card that can just completely poo-poo on your board. Like a lot of times hero boards, like since we don't have any negates, they just need like, you know, Dark Ruler no more, draw into Dark Ruler no more, and then your day is ruined. your 10 minutes of setting up your board is just kind of like, you know, all for naught. So that's kind of why I don't like draw hand, because, you know, there's very powerful cards that everyone's kind of playing, and you know, they can draw into that and, you know, ruin your day. So you play 1 Denier. I really really love this card. You know, it just pretty much, you know, no one complains about Mali being at 2 anymore because it's, you know, it gives you 3 Malis and then more, and then adds more value to your deck as well too, because you can I've specialed it, you know, once or twice from the grave, you know, using Cross, and then brought back my Malicious and just kind of like got into game ender plays where I just go for lethal, you know, go into like a big Dread Decimator with, you know, with actually, you know, with the additional Mali being able to search like through Cross Crusader like your evil hero a dusted gold, and then go into game ender play. It just adds more resources. Like it does so much for the deck besides just adding one more Mali. You can keep on doing it that effect once you special it from the grave. It's just the specialing itself from the grave. That's once per duel, but the other effects of like you know comboing and going to cross and bring it back, like you can do that and use those effects once per turn, like, and it's definitely puts in work. So we got one plasma I find, I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate into this, but yeah, most of the time when I do go into Fusion Destiny blind nowadays, I don't go into the Dark Law play anymore. I kind of with Fusion Destiny, I try to end up on the plasma and the other card, Destiny Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. So I try to go into that play as opposed to the Dark Law Turbo Dark Law play, because I find that's consistently with all the meta decks that puts in more work as opposed to just a nice fat Dark Law that shuts off their grave. Because a lot of the cards, a lot of the meta decks like Fluunderies, even Bird to an extent, like it shuts off the Tri Brigade stuff, but the Leerless stuff, even Sword Soul, like it doesn't really get affected by they can play through Dark Law. So that's kind of why I try to prioritize. So that's why Plasma is really important. It's actually kind of expensive too right now. Like this secret, I think it's like, I don't know, like $50-$60 last time I checked, probably even more now, knowing how crazy this market has been. But Plasma is amazing. It's a walking skill drain. There's so many ways to buff it. And I also play another card to even buff it more so in this deck that I think I've shown last profile, but we'll get to it when we get towards the end of the deck, the main deck profile. So we play a Dusted Gold, just one copy. So a Dusted Gold I find is really good for grind. There was one point where I was trying to like side it out, but in all honesty, it's just when you're going first because you don't want to see it. But at the same time, like you never know when it might come up. You just kind of have to hope you don't draw it. Even though if you do draw it, like it's not the worst thing. If the other 4 cards in your hand are pretty good, then you're kind of Gucci. But yeah, like definitely puts in work to search in Dark Calling and go into Bane plays post first turn. And worst case scenario, if you need it, sometimes you can use it as an extender, like if you need one more hero. But most of the time, because heroes spam pretty well now, you don't really need that much, especially with Denier now. So it's just, if you draw it, you draw it. But at the same time, like it's good to come up in for follow-up plays and grind plays. When you normal and you Stratos and you search it. Most times when you and your opponent are kind of running low on resource and you still have this in your back pocket, you have a good chance of winning the game. So now for the spells. So we play 3 Fusion Destiny. So this is pretty self-explanatory. I think everyone loves this card. A lot of non-hero players play this as well too, because why the hell not? It adds so much advantage. They get to play Dasher and Celestial. Those cards are good targets for those decks because, in my opinion, like it gives them a lot more turn 2 plays, or after the turn that Phoenix Enforcer is summoned. That it adds more advantage to them. Whereas the targets I use, the Malis, the Deniers, even the Decider, because you have a deck full of hero cards. So I think it's more impactful for heroes, the targets that I use, as opposed to Dasher and Celestial, which are just good for mostly non-hero decks. And yeah, like most of the time when you resolve this and this goes through and it doesn't get ashed, I kind of win the game. And this is a 1-card Dark Law, 1-card DPE, Plasma, 1 card like even like I think Dread or Bane or something. Like you can do like all sorts of crazy shit. So Yeah, really, really good card. And unfortunately, like it might be too powerful. Like I think an OCG has got banned recently, or so that kind of sucks. Verte is still kind of running amok over there, and I think they want to sell some of those Albaz structure decks. So that's kind of why it's still there. Verte, like it should have been banned like 2, 3 formats ago. Especially with I think Dragoon is going to make a comeback as well too, so that's going to be even worse. Right now, I think everyone's in agreement that DP is more impactful in the game states than Dragoon is because it does more and you get to you know have more on the field with it, and it just adds more plays. And scythe locks it enables, as well as the bricks are just more valuable as well too. Like I think Dasher is a free special summon if you draw a card in your hand, and Decider is a free draw too, which is a pot of greed. So that's kind of hard to argue right there. Whereas Dark Magician Red Eyes don't really do anything. So yeah, Fusion Destiny, win condition of the deck. If I have it and it goes through, then pretty much we're sitting pretty. Mass change because we play mass heroes, so Dark Claw, Blast, Acid. We need those. We need this to enable that. And also it's good for dodging Imperm and Veiler, which a lot of people forget. So like anything that targets you, like mass change is pretty good to kind of dodge and keep your plays going. So you also play 3 droplets. Yeah, I pretty much gave up trying to get ultis of this, even though they do look beautiful. I might maybe in the future. I just recently got a pretty good raise at work, but I don't know. And in all honesty, we'll see where I'm at with Yu-Gi-Oh! In a year from now, because anything can change. Like with this whole remote stuff, like I haven't really been on top of that. I was kind of doing locals for a bit, and then things kind of stopped abruptly. So yeah, if that's gonna be put on hold, then we'll see. I might just shelve Yu-Gi-Oh for a while and just focus on some other things because the whole online remote thing doesn't really appeal to me too much. Even though it's kind of like nice every once in a while, but for people that work like 40, 50 hours a week on the computers and stuff and work remotely and even at the office, like the last thing I want to do, to be honest, is be on another computer for 3, 4 more hours with people, a bunch of random people, and have to play online. But that's my opinion. But Droplet's still a very, very impactful card, going first and going second. Only deck it doesn't really do too much against is Floowandereeze, because I find that if they open the shifter and they play the macro version of that deck, like you can't resolve it because you need to send cards to the grave. But other decks like Sword Soul, it puts in work. I think Bird, it does pretty well as well too. It stops Utopic Future. I don't know, Appaloosa. It's good against. I guess it's kind of good against PKs. But you need to make sure that you also have Cosmic in hand too, because you need to get rid of the Scythe. Otherwise, they'll just keep on trying to pop it and bring it back. So that's the only issue with that. But still, if we can still play through the Scythe, like if we have Plasma. And so like whenever you're playing against PKs, always make sure that you have Plasma in your deck, because yeah, you can still play through their plays to an extent. Like if you have board breakers like Lightning Storm and all that, you can still put up a Plasma on the field and still continue, and who knows and then keep on playing. And yeah, so it's just, if you get Scythe, you get Scythe. That's what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, because you can just go Forest combo into Plasma and then keep your plays going. And then after that, after the Scythe is done, who knows what happens. You might have enough advantage to take the game. So these are the one-ofs. Oh yeah, so Droplets is, I know a lot of people are also playing Chalice as well too, but because it's kind of a 1-for-1, and a lot of people are finding that 1-for-1 is all they really kind of need, like trades and stuff here and there. But yeah, like I still like droplets because sometimes, especially against sword souls, they have like three boss monsters that have like negates or imposing effects. So you want to address those. Combo's still around, so Drytron's droplets still kind of puts in work. And then even like against Bird Up and PK and other decks, like it does have good utility. And also going first, if you make an Ab Zero and then you use it as cost with the droplets, like the Ab Zero, you get to have like a nice pretty combo that negates one of their cards in the field or a couple of their cards in the field, and then Raigekis. So that's kind of cool on that extent. So it's not a bad card going first either, because you can just kind of set it and negate what your opponent's doing and all that. So yeah, so we play the one poly, it's searchable off of Ion. Play one Miracle Fusion. Play one Dark Calling. So I know there's a Speed Duel set that's coming out, and also like one of those kind of legacy of I forget what it's called. It was the one that Magician Souls, and I think they're doing season 3 of it or something. Legendary Duelist season 3 is coming out or something. There's probably gonna have like more hero stuff. Apparently, that's what they're saying, more hero reprints. So I'm hoping they put him, put Dark Calling, also Liquid Soldier as well too, because those would be pretty nice secret. We play the one Hero Lives. I don't think Hero Lives is going to go to 2 or 3 anytime soon. It just might be too powerful in Konami's eyes, but we'll see. If they hit Fusion Destiny, I'd like them to probably rectify that, because they would add much more needed power to the deck. Play one Call by the Grave. It's pretty good, just in case if you have in your hand and your opponent tries to droll you, you can still keep your plays going, or Lancia you or whatever. Or even Drytrons, they tried to orange light you. You can still use that as well too. So, and actually Shifter as well too. So that this actually goes into play against Shifter. So you do that and you can still keep on your plays going, because I hate that card, especially against Fluunders, like that variant. It just it's kind of hard to put on a decent board when you get shifted, because you need your grave to like kind of resolve Mali and Mist and do all that kind of stuff. We have the Rhoda. So I got the collector's rare of this, and my god, is it gorgeous. Yeah, cost me a pretty penny, but yeah, totally worth it. It was kind of like a little present for myself, because it seems like they've got their shit together when it comes to the collector's rares now. Like I remember I was showing off gammas that had not too long ago, and yeah, those don't look as shiny and sleek as the cards right now. So the new collector's rare, definitely Konami definitely stepped up their game with that. And Rhoda is Rhoda. It's like it's a good search card. You can get Vion, you can get Stratos, just keeps your plays going. And you can even use it to search Mist. And then if you need to, go for a forest play that you have in your hand, you could dump the Shadow Mist that you search with Rhoda and then kind of pop off. So definitely a good card. We have Foolish Burial. So Foolish Burial is pretty good, because sometimes you want to put in Denier in the grave, which gives you so much more advantage. Dump a Mist, dump Mali, you name it and stuff. Like, this card definitely has a lot of uses for this deck. Sometimes I've actually even dumped a Dusted Gold, because I've hard drawn the Dark Calling, and yeah, at the end of the day, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So I've kind of done some messy things and stuff. So Foolish Burial definitely elevates the deck, I guess. It's an extender, and it keeps your plays going, and helps you play through negates and whatever things your opponent's trying to stop you with. So those were the one ofs. These are the cards I choose to play as a one of, just to, it might come up, it might not, depending on the matchups. So D-Force, I kind of like it as like a Saki one of. So I'm playing a bunch of cards that are like really Saki one ofs. So I have D-Force. A new card that I just addressed. Just started playing Pot of Prosperity and Triple Tactics. So D-Force is pretty good. So we'll get to those other cards, but D-Force is pretty good because it turns your Plasma beefy, untargetable. Your hero cards, he can't be destroyed by card effects. And your hero cards can be targeted by card effects as well too. So, it just adds a more imposing board. And a lot of times when I do draw this, I kind of win. But at the same time too, like I don't always want to hard draw this to my hand all the time. And there are some ways to search it, but you have to add more bricks to the deck. And I do want to do I want to run 2 D-Forces in this deck because it's already consistent, and I already have a lot of other things that help me get to that. So if I have Pot of Prosperity in my hand, which is another really good card, I use that to kind of if my hand is kind of lackluster and I don't really have anything, I'll try to use Pot of Prosperity, banish 6, and hope for the best. And most of the time I'll go into a power card like Fusion Destiny, sometimes maybe even D-Force, Mass Change, and keep my plays going and stuff. So, and the targets I banished are most of the time they don't really come up in the play in the turn, especially if it's first turn. It's not really I don't really need an acid or a dangerous, especially if I've committed to a certain kind of combo route, or one of the Dark Claws or one of the crosses, Wonder Driver, or or some of the Miracle Fusion targets. So you have to pick and choose the ways you kind of play it. Like if you're really down bad, then you kind of have to go for 6. If you're like kind of sitting pretty and you still have this in your hand, you haven't resolved it, banish 3 and then see what else nice card you can have. Sometimes you might be able to get a hand trap, get what's the card? Get like droplets, something that might help you give you advantage on your opponent's turn. So that's kind of what Prosperity is good, because it adds card advantage, and that's very key in this game. And Talents is pretty good because everyone's sister's mother's cousin is like playing literally like hand traps galore, even though mostly because Crossout Designator kind of flopped. Like it just didn't really fit the format that we have. And also Max C is not around, so Max C is like a card that you really need to cross out, because it means that if that resolves most of the time, then your opponent will probably win the game, because it involves like past turns. So that's why a lot of people they need more ways of stopping those cards, which was cross out. And what's happening is TCG doesn't have Max C, so we can play through most hand traps a lot of the times. And also for you to be able to run cross out, you need a lot of deck space, or run one ofs, which kind of dilutes the consistency of it. So it's just counterintuitive. So you try to do your best to play through whatever your opponent throws at you, and most often than not, like heroes, we can play through 2 or 3 hand traps pretty consistently. Specifically, if you have God Hand luck like I do, and if you play cards like these, that kind of if you get your Forest negated, your Rhoda negated, your Fusion Destiny negated, Mass Chain negated, and then you still have a Pot of Prosperity in your hand, then you're kind of sitting nice. And then these cards are negated, and you have Talents and stuff. You can just you can change of heart them, you can see their cards in their hand, or you can just draw 2 more cards to see if you can go into something that will push you over the edge and take if you exhaust your opponent's negates and just kind of go off like that. So Talents is also kind of good too, if you get ashed or and you don't really have anything, so you just resolve the draw too, and then, you know, luckily draw into Fusion Destiny or something. So, or like sometimes, I've actually used it at times where like your opponent has a Dragoon and they Fusion Destiny you. No, they negate your your talents, and no, like they well, it's also a good bait as well too. But if they like negate your whatever, one of your starters and use talents, you could just take their Dragoon, and then if they don't have anything to no protection, like you can also use Dragoon's ability, negate, and then burn all his cards, and then swing for game. So it's just kind of good like that. And also it's good to like if you do have a nice hand already and they negated something, you still play through it, and you still have talents. You can, you know, hand check them, see if they have anything dirty in their hand, and stop, spin that card back into their deck, and then on top of that, you have hand knowledge. So adds a lot of utility to the deck, I find. And the other one of two we play is power Saki one ofs. Like that's what I'm kind of calling these. So like talents, D-Force, prosperity, Super Poly. They're all kind of Saki one ofs because they can come up here and there. So like Super Poly, like what I've been seeing a lot in the striker matchup is, you know, because they play DP now. You know, if they have DP and like Shizuku, you know, just drop a Super Poly and then go into Ab Zero, and they can't bring back their DP, and they just kind of like lost a lot of cards, and you know, just lost a lot of advantage. So, and also like it's good against Winda Super Poly. It's to play through that, as well as yeah, I still see Dragoons here and there. You know, it's good against using this on your opponent's DP, especially if you have a Destiny in hand. Normal, it's you know, your DP is my DP now, kind of in a way. So you know, it belongs to the chosen people, the hero players. You know, and then it's also good against if you have it going first and you set it, and if your opponent, I've seen this with the bird deck, they kind of go into that rank 1 play where they kind of attack you directly and go into Zeus. The minute they go into Zeus, you can just use Super Poly, because most of the times you'll have like Sunriser or some kind of elemental here on the field. Like most of the time you do have Sunrise on the field anyways, because he's just there. And you can, if they Dark Rulered you, you can, yeah, second they get Zeus on the field, just use Super Poly and then go into Shining or something. So yeah, it's just, it comes up, and it helps you kind of play through things. I'm not too dependent on it, because I have my issues with Super Poly as well too, because if you use other targets, like I wish, in all honesty, that Super Poly was better for the deck. If it was more generic, you didn't need what you call if you didn't need just an elemental hero, like I would run it as probably a 2 or a 3 of, because it would be like great for board breaking. But I find that the restrictions of being elemental hero for what I play like kind of an Omni kind of build, and I don't like the other targets either, like Starving and Mud Dragon, because I find that they're kind of limiting on the deck, and you can't kind of go into Cross Crusader plays after, and you're kind of stuck. And I feel like with Droplets, Super Poly, and cards like of that nature, like you lose a lot of card advantage as well too. So the discard sometimes does hurt as well too. But it does come up, and it does help me win games here and there. And then you can even use it to OTK sometimes as well too. So if you have like 2 different attributes, you can just go into this, like you attack one, attack the other, and then attack with Sunrise at the end, and yeah, it can end up being a game ender right there. And then we have 2 imperms, because they're like the best, well, one of the best hand traps in the format right now. I find it affects every single deck, so you play it. So you have to play it in the main. So that is for the main. Wow, this is going quite a bit. We'll speed through the extra. So we play 2 Dark Claws because, yeah, Like Darklaw's still a pretty good card. You know, Macrocosmos on legs. A lot of decks still get affected by Graves. Um, you know, Invoke, they need their Grave. Um, Tri Brigades, they need their Grave. Sky Strikers, you know, and also like you never know. Sometimes decks that it doesn't really impact too much. It's not the banishing that they have to worry about. Sometimes when they have to search, you can just kind of hand rip a very valuable card. So sometimes double Darklaw on the field might be able to put in work. Drytrons, it kind of poops on as well too. But Drytrons, I've been finding it's not one of the top meta decks. It's still kind of probably like tier 1.5, maybe arguably even tier 2 now, because I find the other decks are better, like Sword Soul and Invoke DP and those other PKs and all that stuff. I find those decks are a lot better. Bird is a lot better, I find. But that definitely does come up, and especially when you can boost it with Honest Neos, have it on the field. Who knows? It's annoying to have to deal with Darklaw. That's the general consensus I get from a lot of players in Yu-Gi-Oh. So you have one blast for dodging Imperm and Veiler most of the time, and sometimes you use it to spin back row. Like there can only be one that's still kind of a pain in the ass, especially when you're playing against stun decks. You want to get rid of some floodgates. So definitely comes up. Speaking of rid of getting floodgates, Acid comes up every now and then. My hometown locals, they're very notorious for being very stun orientated. So Acid does put in work, especially when you're going first. You have Ab Zero and you have a set mass change on their turn. Set 5, use Master Your Acid and watch them cry. Speaking of Ab Zero, puts in work. He's one of my favorite hero cards. When he leaves the field as a Raigeki. Fortunately, there's a ruling that says that if it's spun to the extra deck, because it's no longer in the field, I guess, the effect doesn't go off where it destroys everything, which doesn't really make any sense to me, because it's when it goes to the extra deck or it's getting spun to the main, it's no longer in the field. But I don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh is all, for some reason, this game is very weird about making semantics and like even what if rulings. So I don't even want to get into it. So it's just how it is. But if it gets banished and leaves the field, or face up, or if it gets sent to the grave, or it's destroyed, or you use it as cost for droplets, you can still get the effect. So that's all that really matters. You play one Sunrise. Sunrise is decent. It's not as good as it was before, because I'd rather most of the time try to go into DPE, but it's still pretty good for combo chain of using liquid and another elemental hero, or another kind of another hero of like dark or whatever, like a vision hero or something. Go into that, searching the miracle, and then getting the draw 2 discard 1 off the liquid. So definitely pretty good, and his effects do come up, the buffs. So you'd be surprised how many people still forget about attacking other monsters. Especially if you have this and Plasma. They still, for some reason, still try to attack Plasma, and they forget that Sunrise acts as a pseudo protection, like soft protection. And they try to take it back, but I'm like, nope. It's your fault for not reading cards properly. And so that definitely comes up. The boost is really good as well too. So yeah, it's still a really good card. It's just not as good as it was before. So you play Escuridao mostly for if you want to use it under Fusion Destiny, or it's Super Poly target, or even a Miracle target. I usually use a lot of times I use Wonder Driver a lot, so I'm able to kind of spam some of the other Omnis and all that, and it definitely does come up. Escuridao, it just usually kind of a target. because a lot of the times I try to mass change it or just kind of swing for a little bit of damage, but I don't really even pay attention to the buff. Like it has a really shitty effect. It's just there mostly because it's a dark and a decent super poly target and a decent miracle target as well too. Shining, so he's another kind of poo poo what you call omni hero, I guess. Usually use him because he's a light, and lights kind of do come up. Like you play against Herald of Perfection, no Herald of Ultimateness, and then what's the other card? It comes up against Zeus. Like I use this actually a lot of times on Zeus and all that because Zeus is annoying, and yeah, so usually use that. Sometimes his effect comes off because when you're playing against other kind of rogue decks like Eldritch, they'll try to pop this card and they'll forget that you can get some cards back. Like from the so what you used as banish, you can recur those cards. So a lot of times I use like sometimes liquid and a light, so like Honest Neos or something, or even sometimes Sunrise, and I get to go into another Sunrise play, and yeah, so that does add recursion, but it's just that stupid when if thing. So it's a when effect. So when you're if it's not the last thing in the chain, so even when you're linking or like something kind of else happens, like your opponent doesn't affect at the same time that you're doing it, like it'll stop. You'll miss timing on his effect, so that's the issue with that. But sometimes it can also get big as well too because it has about 2,600, and if you have a lot of Destiny elemental heroes that are banished already, you can easily get to like 3,500 plus like what is it, Sunrise and under Decimator or whatever. Like you can get kind of beefy. So we have Dangerous still kind of comes out mostly for one card what is it, one card Dark Claw plays, and then also some like janky weird hands you want to get rid of and stuff. So but most of the time it's usually one card Dark Claw plays. So we also have DPE, so he's kind of the star of the show in the extra deck. Everyone loves him, like he's everyone's baby now, and I feel bad because Dystopia is gone now because I find it's like not that great. I barely kind of go into it, so like what's the point of running it? Like we might as well run something that you might have more utility with. And yeah, so unfortunately Dystopia kind of took the back seat of me because I wasn't really resolving that much. So at this point, at this juncture, I was just like, what's the point of running it? Just might as well just go all in on DPE. And yeah, DPE, it's really good. It helps you play through Nib. It it keeps on spamming like destruction effects, and it's almost like untargetable because when something targets it, you just target itself, target the card that's targeting you, or target something else, and get off the field and come back next turn. And if your opponent doesn't have lethal or anything, then they're kind of screwed because they have to deal with this again. And then with us heroes, other players, we have a lot of heroes that are in the grave and they get debuffed like crazy. Like other non-hero players, they only get like a 400 attack debuff, but we kind of like a lot of times I've had like 1,600 attack debuffs on my opponents, and yeah, it's just like, or a lot of times like they've had like 3K, and then I've had a grave full of heroes, and yeah, they're like down to 0 attack, and then you just swing for game. So really, really underrated part of him. But yeah, it's just like his recursion ability of destroying and reviving a Destiny hero. Sometimes I even don't even revive him. I revive Denier, and then can go into lethal plays like that. So depending on how much card advantage my opponent has, or if we're in grind, so comes up. And yeah, it's really, really, really good card, and expensive but worth the money. So Bane is still pretty good in my opinion. He's like really good for like going second strategies. You could use him in extender, worst case scenario, if you hard draw him and if you need to. But yeah, most of the time, it's in grind, it's hard to go through a Bane, like they can get his attack up really high, especially if it Raigekis the field. And then it's like can't be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, really, really good card, and it's big and beefy. So we have 2 crosses. So yeah, in my build, because I don't run super poly, like and I'm not super dependent on that. Crosses are very important for me, so that's why I feel like 2 is the right number, because it definitely does come up. Even though like I did say it's the format is not super grindy, but still like a lot of games last like 3-4 turns on average, right? So you will definitely probably go into another Cross Crusader effect and need to search something valuable like a Stratos, Dusted Gold, depending on what happens in grinds. So definitely does come up. And then we have 1 Dread. Dread is pretty good because, it's boosts up your heroes, and then you can also swing and you can do piercing, and it can get really big like mid to late game. If Konami does add another Link 3 or even a Link 4 or something that is more valuable, I'll probably swap him out for that. But for now, like it just seems like the kind of a card that needs to be in the deck, because it does helps you climb, and especially even like Baguska plays and stuff, you need to kind of climb into this in order to kind of go past Baguska and pierce, destroy him in defense and all that. So it just doesn't get affected because it's a Link and it's kind of big. So it's kind of needed, I find, for the time being. And then Wonder Driver. Wonder Driver is a lot better now because Denier, DPE can keep on coming back to the area where it's pointed down, and you can just keep on recurring. Super Poly, Mass Change, Miracle. I recur Miracle a lot, actually, so definitely comes up. And you can just, it just adds a lot of advantage, and definitely was ahead of its time. But I think it was just like it wasn't being properly used because now we have more resources to do. So like it's definitely a staple. Like good hero players play Wonder Driver, in my opinion, because they know how to use them. And that's it for the extra. We'll go quickly through the side. Wow, this is probably the longest deck profile I've done. Like, mind you, I probably kind of like droned on a lot, but it just we're almost there, guys. Bear with me. So we have 3 exchange. So yeah, I don't play Crossout because, in my opinion, I just don't like it. I don't find the cards very good, and it kind of hurts the consistency of the deck because of all the targets you have to play. And I find that you still need to hand trap your opponents with certain key hand traps, like, and also exchange also gives you much needed hand knowledge because, a lot of the times, what are you going to do against board breakers or like if you need to see your opponent's hand a lot of times to know how to play against them and know what you're going up with. So like if they have like a handful like Nib, Droll, Dark Ruler and stuff, it's good to see what they have. If it sometimes it might be worth it just to not do anything like under combo at that point, depending on how busted their hand is. Take one of their valuable hand traps or take one of their valuable starters, because sometimes a lot of people overside and then they're stuck with like bricks and stuck with a bunch of hand traps, and then and then you could just kind of use that against them, do the whole rope-a-dope action. So it depends. I like it, in my opinion. I've been using it for a while, and until something's better, until I find that Crossout is more viable in the format, like if Max C something comes out, then I'm still going to be using this. I tried Prohibition, didn't really like it that much. I tried, what was the other one? Drag Down. Didn't like giving my opponent an advantage, so, I find Exchange is the best, for me at least. Play 3 Cosmic, because of Macro, and for Scythe. So Scythe is the new thing, so, yep, definitely comes up. Play 3 Droll. Yeah, a lot of decks still get kind of affected by Troll. Like, there's some decks that not so much. Like, against 10E Sword Soul, I find that it's not the greatest. But against Bird, really good. Drytron's really good. Invoked, very, very good. Yeah, so like you just have to pick up what matchup, pick and choose what matchups. Oh, Fluundereeze, it's like a game killer right there. So definitely really, really good card. So we're still running the 2 Veilers. So it's funny that these things used to be like $1 or $2, these platinum rares. And now they're like 40-50 bucks. Because Veiler is actually really, really good this format. Like it's good against Sword Soul. And even, to an extent good against Fluundereeze if you stop their normal. And yeah, it's just, it puts in work at times. So, and it's not once per turn, so that's kind of good. So, this is more copies of, what is it? Imperm, in my opinion. We played 2 Lightning Storm because of, Floodgates and also, board removal. You can use this against, if you, you can also use it to bait too. So sometimes you bait the Baronne, the Fleur that Sword Souls play, and then you can just pop off after. So sometimes it's just worth it to play the baits. Miracle, no, I mean Harpy Feather Duster just for back row. Yeah, really, really good card. Yeah, it's just for floodgates. Sometimes you have to be careful depending on who you're playing against. Like if they have like one of those kind of combo-y kind of decks like PKs and stuff, you don't want to use this, or even like Lightning Storm because you might hit the scythe. But yeah, it's good against stun, I find. And stun's a pain in the ass. Speaking of for stun, Red Reboot. Red Reboot's pretty good. In the what's the matchup? Yeah, in the Invoke DP matchup, don't use this against them because if Meltdown's active and they use Schism, then Red Reboot doesn't go through. It doesn't negate, and you just end up losing half your life points. So it's just you literally neg, and then you also lose half your life points. So don't be me. Anyways, guys, that's the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm going to be trying to go to locals again, maybe soon, and maybe stream some matches, and then put them on the channel, add some variety. But yeah, that's the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, take care, guys.